Hey guys, this is Brian Hilliard here, author of the best-selling book, Networking Like a Pro, and creator of the popular program, How to Start Getting More Paid Speaking Gigs in Less Than 90 Days. Now, I have got a special guest here today. His name is James Palmer. He is a ghostwriter. He is a content creator. He is actually somebody, and I was thinking about this, James, when we were talking. You are probably the one of the oldest people that I know, not in terms of age, but in terms of time, oldest people that I know when I first started my business back in '01, because we wrote Networking Like a Pro, the very first book together, the very first book,
Yeah.
which was 2003. We did that together. Anyway, James Palmer, let's welcome you aboard. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. It's great to talk to you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome,
It's
awesome.
been a minute.
It's definitely been a minute. James is actually out in northern Georgia. As you guys know, I am out in North Carolina. So this is when I used to live in Georgia, in Atlanta. And it was some good stuff. So James, I know that obviously as a ghostwriter, content creator, you are all about getting out the good word to folks and really making sure, that coaches and people like that are able to write a book and get that going. What would you say are one of, or maybe, excuse me, we'll just get into maybe one right off the bat. What would you say is something that why somebody would want to have a book in the first place? So forget about speaking right now. We're just talking about as a coach. Speaking, maybe we'll get into, but like just as a coach, why would somebody want to have a book in the first place, you think?
Well, I think for anybody, and that can be a coach, consultant, a thought leader in their niche. A book really sets you apart. It gives you an edge. It helps you stand out from the competition. If you're at a big event, and you can probably speak to this, if you're at a big coaching gathering where everybody's a coach, I mean everybody's a coach.
Right.
You got to have something to um, give you some leverage, give you an edge, help you stand out from the crowd. And
Right.
a book does that. A book is the ultimate business card.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was talking with a guy, his name is Everett O'Keefe. He actually is a publisher out in the coast, Ignite Publishing. And one of the points that he talks about exactly is that he has a book called The Power of the Published. And the conversation he has is exactly around that, which is it's a business card that really can be left with people, maybe not literally left with people, but it's almost like a calling card. So talk a little bit about that, like using a book as like a calling card or a differentiator. What's your deal with that? Like a thought on that?
Well, you know, like a business card, it's got your contact info. Unlike a business card, people, what happens to business cards, you throw them in the bottom of a bag.
Right.
Uh, it might get looked at when you get home. It might not. You stick it on a pile on your desk. I've got some I still haven't gone through. But the book gets people to know, like, and trust you. You've got some good value add ideas in there. Whether they hire you or not, they can use what's in the book to improve their business, improve their lives, become more successful, whatever. And that's a piece of you personally that they carry home with them.
Right. It's interesting, as you guys, as our listeners know, James, you may or may not remember, I'm a big sports guy. I like to watch a lot of NBA and, basketball. And one of the things that they talk about when you're on offense is you want to be aggressive, right? You want to be aggressive. You want to, generally speaking, be having motion that takes you to the basket, because the feeling is that if you go to the basket, one of two things happens. You either score or you get fouled, which sends you to the free throw line, and you take your two shots and you hope for the best. And I think in a lot of ways that the book is the professional services equivalent to getting to the free throw line. Like, you have a situation where when you have a book, you're being aggressive, right? You're forward to the basket. You've got a body of work. You've already alluded to this. You've got people who are looking at it. And what happens is they're like, boy, you know what? I'd love to be able to either hear a little bit more about what you say, or I saw this on there. I mean, right? Like, that seems to be the way that it goes with a lot of people.
Yeah, books have a lot of inherent value, but when people find out that you're an author, like there's almost this mystical quality to writing and having written. All that, you and I know that's really not the case, but to people outside, the perception is, wow, this guy wrote a book, that this woman wrote a book, that's amazing. This person, you become more interesting to them. They want to know how many books you've written, or when's the next one coming out, stuff like that.
That's
uh,
exactly right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And and you're going to remember talking to an author more than you're going to remember talking to this or that coach or whatever.
Right. Good point. Differentiating factor. So here's something that happened to me. So the Networking Like a Pro, you and I wrote the first one. I call that Patient Zero, because
Yeah.
we also had two more come out with Dr. Ivan Meisner, who is the founder of BNI. You may or may not know that, but that's what he is. And I got a text actually from somebody at a BNI chapter. Says, hey, my name is John Smith, and I found out your book because somebody gave it away as a door prize, and can I get a discount if I order like 30 of them or more? And I texted him back, and we were talking stuff like that. Well, here's the thing. It's winding up where he's actually an insurance company. It's winding where they do like health insurance and stuff like that. They've got different agents. It's winding up where not only is he going to get the book, like I'm going to shoot him out the book, but also I'm going to turn that into a presentation. So I'm actually going to do a 30-minute presentation with him. Okay. And what I've done in the past in those situations is maybe wind up doing a master class with them. I've got like a boot camp, an audio boot camp that I have, maybe that if they want, where they can bring it out to their guys, the company pays for it. They can give it out to anybody they want. Like, there are different opportunities. And my point for bringing all that up is it all started with the book. So if you're thinking in terms of, as a coach, you're like, oh, well, everybody's got books out, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I don't need it, blah, 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 and whatever. Absolutely is a great deal. But let's get to point numero dos, James, because this is where you come in, which is this idea of a time saver. So like, you're coming in there as as somebody that is a ghostwriter, content creator. You've got people who you work with. And because why do you work with them? Well, they're telling you that I want to write a book, don't have the time, don't have the energy, don't have whatever. Talk to us a little bit about your work. Like, how do you work with people from a ghostwriting perspective to not only make sure that you keep their voice, but also get something out the door? Give us a little bit of a feel for what that looks like, if you don't mind, please.
Well, I'm kind of, and this kind of gets into kind of, you're almost a book coach too. Sometimes with some people, you're coaching the buck out of them. I'm just here to be a facilitator and to kind of demystify the process a little bit, because people get into it, and a book is one thing, publishing is something else, and helping them decide, do I want to traditionally publish this? Do I want to indie publish? If I indie publish, do I need hardcovers? Do I need a paperback? Can I order stuff in bulk at cost and sell them at events? And just, do I have enough material for a book? Is this really a book, or is this a white paper, or even a long blog post? Can I turn my presentation into a book? You talked about a book being a presentation. People can turn their presentations and courses into books. They do it all the time. And in content marketing, we call that repurposing content. Blog posts, turning them into books, helping them, just helping them with that whole process. And a lot of people don't have the time or the expertise to write a good, solid book. And that's where I can come in and help them with that too.
Let's talk about that. You made several good points. Let me unpack one of those, which is do I have enough material for a book? Let's unpack that a little bit, because that's something I don't know if I've talked with anybody about. Do I have enough content for a book? All right. So I feel like I have something in my head. I'm not sure what, talk to us about that. How do I know if it's enough for a book or not?
Well, I think, and when I'm doing a project with somebody, I do an outline / table of contents, and
Okay.
that can give you an idea.
Okay.
Because as you start unpacking the idea and breaking it down into steps,
Okay.
you can see, okay, there's some meat here.
Okay.
You can see, hey, I've already got material that can go here, here, and here.
Okay.
Or you can go, if I write this thing, it's only going to be 10,000 words, and that's not
Right.
really, that's an okay for an ebook, but it's not enough meat for something in print that's, I can sell at the back of the room or whatever.
Right. Right. Right.
So yeah, just stuff like that. If people have a lot of content, they probably do. You can take related blog posts and turn those into a book. And nonfiction doesn't have to be as long as like a novel. You don't need 100,000 word
Right.
thing here. This is 30, 40,000 words and you're golden.
Yeah, it's so funny you should say that. Let's talk about that, because I actually just finished up, had to overachieve without overcommitting. I was telling you that before we got on, my second edition. And I was thinking that, I was like, how many words did I do? I did, the book itself is only 7 chapters. So what I did was how to overachieve without overcommitting. 7 quick tips to, I think we said, get stuff done without killing yourself in the process. I think that's the secondary line. And, I was thinking about like that. My book, this last one, I want to say came out to not a lot, 70 pages, 75, like maybe 65-ish. Like it's definitely not 100. It's definitely not 100. You know what I mean? And in terms, I was trying to think in terms of words, because I sent it out and I'm trying to think, I want to say it might have been, I think it was definitely over 10,000, but like maybe 15,000, something like that. Because I think each chapter was maybe about 1,500 to 2,000. So that's not that much more than 10,000, 14,000, 15,000 words, something like that, plus the intro.
Yeah, I don't remember either. That was so long ago, but I remember the finished volumes we did of both books, and they're slim volumes.
Right.
Which is, that's fine, because people want to get through stuff quickly. People are busy and they're overwhelmed by a big, huge, they're not going to read Lord of the Rings about management. They're just not.
Right.
But yeah, no, it was, I don't remember words now either, but yeah, it wasn't a lot, and you don't need a lot to have something really with some meat. And I remember, I would give those books away to people. I'd go to networking things and people just went nuts over them. They were like, this is fantastic.
Right. Because and I guess the other thing too is, now that I'm thinking about it, that the one, and again, I just wrote one myself, and then we had the ones before, and maybe this is a takeaway for a prospective author. The way those were set up were very actionable. Like you talked about Lord of the Rings and, something like that. Enough. What's one of the main differences between, in my opinion, a book that we're talking about from a business standpoint versus what you just mentioned? Well, I think the former, the ones that we do, is you want it to be action oriented. Like in a perfect world, in my opinion, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but in a perfect world, you could pick up a copy of that book, read a chapter, and plausibly have an action item that you can implement in your life or business.
Absolutely. And that, that's what I'll do a lot. And you'll see this a lot in other people's stuff. At the end of the chapter, it's got the takeaways from the chapter, like a little summary, and they'll say action items or something like that, or here's your homework and you go do this, this, and this before you move to the next step, the next chapter. It helps cement this stuff in your head. I think for any kind of motivational coach or life coach, you've got to convince people that they can do this stuff,
right?
That they can be the change they want in their life,
right?
And they can take action on this stuff. They're not just reading a book and then going back to things as they are.
That's exactly right. Let's take a look at it from the opposite perspective. So before we were saying, do we have enough? Okay. Now let's talk about, maybe you run into somebody who has more than enough. Like, what do you do with that? Is it the same process where you're going through them, and they're like, oh, this is what it looks like and I need to pare it down? Talk to us a little bit about that, where it's not that we're trying to get, I don't know if I have enough. It's OMG, I've got 2 Moby Dicks and I want 1 book. What do you do with that?
Well, it may be the case that some of that stuff maybe doesn't quite fit. You might have to pare down the idea a little bit and make it a
Okay.
little bit more specific.
Okay.
It might even be the case that, hey, I've got a series.
Oh,
I can do book 1, book 2, book 3, whatever. Spin those off into courses. It might be that you could do something like that, and that's series are huge in. I know they're huge in fiction. They're huge in nonfiction too. If you can come up with a something, I might not be the best example, but chicken soup for the soul, chicken
right,
soup for the writer's souls, chicken
right,
soup for the dog owner's soul, whatever. I mean, they got dog food, chicken soup for the soul, dog food.
right.
So just spin it like that, and spin off of it and have multiple books.
That is funny. I always use my joke is chicken soup for the horse lover soul.
Yeah,
And I like, right? I mean, you're like volume 3. You're like, okay.
yeah, yeah. Well, I have chicken soup for the writer's soul here somewhere, and I love it. It's great. There's some good
Right,
stuff in there. But
right,
yeah, it's you think it's like, how is that even a niche? Chicken soup for the taco lover's soul. I
right.
mean,
You're
that
absolutely right.
they get that granular with it,
That's
and they're
exactly right.
bestsellers.
That's exactly right. I actually met Jack Canfield early in the like when so it was when I was in Atlanta, maybe 90, I mean not 90, excuse me. I moved to Atlanta in 98. But it was when I was in Atlanta, so probably 2002, I think it was 2003. It was early on. And
Mhm.
it was when Chicken Soup for the Soul, I think, had come out, but it wasn't like this name brand thing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And I said,
yeah,
I misspoke. I said Jack Canfield. I meant to say Mark Victor Hansen. I think I said
right.
Jack Canfield. I meant to say Mark Victor Hansen. And I got a picture. I got a picture of him with me. So it's some good stuff. All right. Well, let's finish this off with the question that is on maybe everyone's minds, which is this idea of a book being an income stream. Okay.
Mhm.
And this is going to get into a little bit of, if, for some of our speakers that are also coaches, but go out and speak, this is something that's a big deal as well. Talk about how the book like becomes a part of that income stream, probably for a speaker, maybe not so much on Amazon. Unpack it however you'd like, and we can just have that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between a nonfiction book and a fiction book. I've written both. For fiction, that is your product. That is what you're wanting to sell.
Right.
Nonfiction has a lot more leeway. It can open doors for you into events. If you want to speak to a certain group, send them the book with your one sheet. Um, like I said, it's the ultimate business card. You can use it for lead generation. You can download my free book when you sign up for my newsletter, and then in your newsletter you're talking about your courses and your seminars, and I'm going to be at this workshop and I'm doing this paid coaching thing. It opens doors for that. I mean, the book, you're really not going to make that much money
Right.
off of it. You're going to make a few dollars a copy. And that's even on Amazon, organic reach on Amazon, without running ads to it, and that costs you money.
Right.
But really, you want those. You want to get $2,000 for a speaking gig, that kind of thing, and the book can do that for you, for sure.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. When you have a book and you are as a speaker or a coach, definitely as the former, when you're going out and speaking, it helps to be able to have that. I tell people that a book creates its own gravity as it relates to back of the room sales. Like I've done it before where I've had books and where for whatever reason I haven't had them. didn't have them for whatever reason. Maybe there was a snafu with the publishing, or
Yeah.
I've had it in the past where I've thought I've had books in the basement and it turns out I didn't. And I was PO'd with that. But,
Yeah.
you know, it's just what you could have sworn you had them, but you just never checked. And that
Yeah,
was my
I've done that
mistake.
before.
You
Oh,
know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so my point is that I have had situations, okay, where you go out and you are speaking with a book, and you're going out and speaking same thing, like obviously not the exact same audience, but the same topic, the same, you know, conceptual audience, same time frame, like the same thing, and you don't do as well. You know what I mean? In terms of back of the room sales. And I always say that the book is the anchor point towards that. And I love your point, James, too. We didn't get a chance to get into it, but let's do it now, which is, you know, you talked about, so here are the different iterations. So the body of work is the body of work. Let's say that body of work becomes a book, just because you're on the show. So that's what we're going to say. It becomes a book. Okay.
Yeah.
Then from there, though, you can iterate it in a number of different ways. An online course, a free download. We didn't even talk about this, a mastermind class,
Yeah.
a small group cohort, like a little 3 to 5 session small group deal. It could theoretically be your private coaching sessions, but usually the private coaching sessions is the body of work that becomes the book. So maybe not as much with that. A webinar. But there's definitely these different ways. And what did I, out of maybe, let's say 5, take the private coaching out, 3 or 4 of them can be revenue streams, just back of the room, you know, want to work with you kind of stuff. And it lends credibility. We're back to that again.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you've got you've got passive versus active income too. And the book, you talked about the coaching stuff and having workshops and things. And I'm sure you know this as well as anybody else listening. You can market that thing and it can be the best thing ever, and not everybody's going to be able to take advantage of it. They can't afford it, they don't have time, whatever. That book helps you help a lot of people. Instead of a few people one-on-one, you're helping thousands of people at once without you even doing anything.
Right.
And then they can come to your other stuff later. They see the value the book gives. And I'm all about giving value,
Right.
not you know, teasing people with stuff and then not telling them. And so to learn it, you got to go to my thing.
Right.
Give them good, solid information in there, and then they'll come to you when they need help for the next step.
That's exactly right. And one point I want to finish up with, and maybe you help people with this as well. Do not sleep on the title of your book, because like that is maybe not numero uno, but certainly dos or tres on that list of things that you need to be looking at. Do not sleep on the title. You know, for us, we did the networking like a pro. And that actually was what got Dr. Mize, the way that he tells the story, that the networking like a pro title was the one that got him interested in doing some work with me. You know, I generally speaking am a how-to man. So like how to overachieve without overcommitting is one of mine, you know, so I like to how to this without that, you know, how to get this benefit without having to deal with this, you know, challenge. You know, of all the people, Mike Pence actually did my favorite. Now, I don't know, it would be considered, is it fiction when you want to write about your time at the White House, or is it nonfiction? That would be nonfiction, right?
Nonfiction, like a memoir kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Mike Pence had one of my favorite all-time book titles, So Help Me God. So it's the idea that be like witty with your titles, because that will help you draw people in and want to read the darn thing in the first place. And I'm assuming you work with people and help them with the titles and things like that to get them, you know, with your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where my and I just read a lot. I see a lot of titles. You kind of absorb this stuff, but my background as a copywriter kind of helps with that. I like to do you know, you have the clever title, like So Help Me God, and then a colon, and then your, how to, or 7 steps to,
Right.
and those are keywords for like Amazon. I mean, that's people people think Amazon is a bookstore or an online shopping. No, it's a search engine for people who buy stuff.
That's really interesting, James. I
And
never thought about it like that.
yeah, and it's really great at it, because they want to sell stuff.
Yeah.
Google wants to sell stuff. It's really good at so, think about that. Think about, those are keywords that you can put in there and it not sound like your keyword stuffing.
Right. That's an excellent, excellent point. And then I thought about another title that I liked. Dr. Meissner, actually, World's Best Known Marketing Secret. So you can do
Oh,
that
yeah.
too. Yeah, Dr. Meissner did that. That's like his #1 scoring option. Like World's Best Known Marketing Secret. It's been going on for years. People are still buying it. So there's different titles that you can have that will make it more successful. Well, James, this has been a pleasure. I am so glad we got a chance to reconnect. Give guys a little bit of a chance of where they can either connect with you, maybe on LinkedIn, or they can email you or something like that. How can these folks get in contact with you?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn. Just look me up, James Palmer on LinkedIn. They can shoot me an email, James Palmer Books, BOOKS @gmail.com, and I'd be happy to help them create their next book, or their first book, or their 10th book.
Right. That is awesome. Well, listen, this was a pleasure. So it was James, James Palmer, Palmer Books. Okay, so James Palmer Books at Gmail, or just obviously his first and last name. You can look him up on LinkedIn. Well, listen, my name is Brian Hilliard. That is James Palmer over there. We're saying so long, take care, and thank you guys so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Bye.